All right. Yeah, how's it going, everybody? I have another video for you. This is a pretty interesting topic. Covers a lot of things here. I hope it's not too much. I didn't know what to call it, so I have several titles to choose from. The first title is There is None and There Cannot Be Any Compatibility Between Man and Woman. The next possibility for a title is The One Major Obstacle Facing the Success of Any Relationship. Next one, Gender Inequality Within Relationships and Marriage. Next one, The Misconception of Male Control and Dominance Within a Relationship. Listen to these closely. Next one, all relationships, by definition, are a gynocentric designed model. Next one, the relationship, it's all for her and nothing for you. Next one, a man's fate within a relationship. And final one, final possible title for this video is What Women Really Want. Control. Alright, here it goes. I wrote this all out here, and I'm going to read it to you and maybe do a little chatting. Okay, let's go for it. Here's the big difference between the genders within a relationship. Being in the traditionally defined monogamous long-term relationship is an unnatural state of existence for the male. While the same traditional relationship is the preferential, natural, and aspirational existence for the female. Alright? So basically what I'm saying here is being in a monogamous long-term relationship as defined by traditionalism is a very unnatural state for a man to be in. Let me explain. Is a woman's evolutionary role the same as a man's evolutionary role? That's the question. Well, men and women are driving toward totally opposite objectives. These are two very opposite objectives. With women, it's nesting, and with men, it's persistent insemination. So these are the terms that I was working on and originated for you. And I'm going to try to highlight everything and explain it. Women have a need and an instinct for nesting, while men have a need and an instinct for inseminating a variety of all appropriate females. Now the key words here are variety and all. The two drives and desires are diametrically opposed. Compatibility, what is compatibility? Common desires and aspirations. That's how I define compatibility. Now, is that present within a relationship? You decide. Male instincts are not the same as female instincts. There's a huge difference between the two. Of course, liberals have tried to deny the differences between males and females, basically stating that there are no differences, and that is going against nature. I deal with nature, I deal with biology, and I deal with reality. Those are the three things I deal with. I do not deal, and I do not study, and I do not comment on, and I do not write on pathology. I have no interest in deviance. I have no interest in criminality, sickness of any kind. I am only interested in what is so-called the healthy male and the healthy female. There's enough material there to talk about, believe me. And that's what I want to study, and that's what I want to learn. The healthy male and healthy female. So, going along with this, what is persistent insemination? It is something that the male does through sexual conquest. It is the subjugation and the assumption of emotional control over a multitude of females. This is very important here. The only thing the male is interested in is sexual conquest. And this is done through the subjugation of the female and the assumption that that female will become emotionally dependent on the male. And I think that pretty well will define masculinity, or it will give a certain worthiness or the magnitude of worthiness to masculinity as to how good you are at achieving those objectives with a female. Nesting achieved by the female can only be done by controlling the male through his domination from within. So the female can only nest if she can control the male. And she doesn't do it externally. She does it from within through emotional means. Emotionally. Males do not need to nest. They do not want to nest. That's why the monogamous long-term relationship is contrary to what a male needs to do innately in nature. So these are the two sexual strategies of the genders. The female must be systematic, which is defined by being methodical, organized, planned, logical, practical, coherent in their sexual strategies, while males are always opportunistic. If we see a vulnerable female, we jump her. All right? We overpower her, we make her our own, and we inseminate her. It's no different from any other animal. It shouldn't be denied. It shouldn't be a source of shame. None of that. It's just what our role is. Therefore, the primal incentive of any female is to harness the male for nesting. Harness the male for nesting. While the primary incentive of the male is to be on the lookout for new pussy. Always on the lookout for new pussy. The two sexual strategies are absolutely incongruent. Okay, so from the very first moment that a man and woman go out on a date, the very first moment that they're together, they are already absolutely incompatible. Sounds very optimistic, sounds very encouraging, doesn't it? The goal of the female is stability and permanence. And this is found in the family structure. This is found through the family structure. But only through monogamy and the ownership of her male partner. Key word there is the ownership of her male partner. She gains this through the acquisition of the, in brackets, protector and provider, in brackets. To say this nicely, and to be socially flattering to the female. Now, what exactly does protector and provider mean, if we're not going to say it nicely? It is analogous to what we call the manservant, ready to be sucked dry, emotionally abused, and then discarded when no longer producing and doing things for her. This is in complete opposition to the goal of the male, which is driven by the need for unlimited sexual conquest through the procurement of a variety of females to inseminate. Males need variety. Males cannot be with one female. It is an unnatural state to be in. The male normally achieves this through establishing multiple, parallel, and open relationships. I deal a lot with terms, so I'm going to accentuate the key words, the key terms, the key phrases that make up my whole article here. So basically, the male achieves his sexual strategies through multiple, parallel, and open relationships with multiple females. The male wants nothing from these females except for emotional closeness and their emotional dependence on him, which I would categorize as L-O-V-E, love, and the way the male looks at it as love. The way the male defines love is very different than, as we know, the way the female defines love. The minimalist model of any male/female relationship delineates the fundamental goal of the female to control the male. And this can only be done through the suppression of his male nature, in reference to his male sexuality. So she has to repress his natural male sexuality. The suppression of male sexuality is essential for the female in order to establish fidelity through monogamy, instead of the natural inclination of the male for multiple female insemination through parallel relationships with a multitude of females. Key word here is parallel relationships. Men are made for parallel relationships, which they are very capable of, and it's the natural state for them to be in. The more women under his control, the more of a man, the more masculine he feels. Of course, this is totally contrary to what every woman expects, demands, and wants. The female engages in an instant evaluation of any male for the purpose of control. The primary objective of every female is control. She must control that male to own that male and to make that male into her servant and to make him into her servant for as long as she decides she wants that servant, until she discards and throws away that slave. That's her goal. She was born with that in her genes. It's innate within her. It's primal. It's evolutionary. The most submissive, weak female is going to have that drive to control the male. The male could be 300 pounds and 6'8", and she will control that male. It's her goal. And she will do it internally through emotional means. So never, ever lie to yourself, fool yourself into believing that you are in control. The woman is in control from the very first moment you set eyes on her. That's her function in life. The female has full agency in the choice of her sexual partners, and this is invariably always based on the ability for or the prospect for control over him. The female has full agency in the choice of her sexual partners, and this is invariably always based on the ability for her to control him. The female wants to be certain of being able to acquire from any particular male whatever she deems necessary for her own survival, advancement, and the creation and flourishing of her offspring. To fulfill her biological aspirations and fulfill her evolutionary role, the female must choose her sexual partner correctly and systematically. Now, there's been some talk, very justified, very correct, I might add, that women, contrary to what they want to make everybody believe and the world to see them as, women are not able to love. And I'm explaining why. Why not? emotional considerations and abstractions such as love cannot and do not get in the way of female determination. And you know what she's determined to do. Romance is not her determination. It's not her calling in life. For a man it is, but not for a woman. The female is a very practical creature, largely devoid of romantic sensibilities, which is contrary to the highly erroneous and immorally misleading social narrative perpetuated by the constant female self-victimization state. The male is actually the more profoundly romantic of the two. Romantic fantasy is required as a necessity for him to desire to inseminate instantly, subjectively, and often blindly, virtually any female. We need to be aroused, we need to fall in love, and we do that instantly. And when women are presented with this, where you walk up to a woman and you say, I think I'm in love with you. You are unbelievably awesome and gorgeous, and I'm just, oh God, I just gotta have you. I am absolutely in love with you. And I could see, you're the last woman I will ever need. The woman will look at you and think you're absolutely fucking crazy. She'll think you're bullshitting. You're making it up. You're lying to her because she doesn't feel that. Now I know, very well what a man feels, but a woman has no clue and has no idea how it could even be possible. All right. She says, oh, I got to get to know you. I have to be with you, spend time with you, have coffee with you 32 times, and go on dates with you, and blah, 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 before I will know if I love you or not. That's not how a man works. For a man, it's got to be instant. If you see a female right over there on that corner, and your biology, your instinct tells you that you must inseminate her, you have to be aroused. A female does not have to be aroused in order to be inseminated, in order to be fertilized. All right? She doesn't have to have an orgasm. She doesn't have to be aroused. She doesn't have to love. All she has to do is spread her fucking legs, and it's a done deal. It's over with. Job done. But a man can't do that. We can't do anything unless we're aroused. So we say to them on a regular basis, send me some pictures of yourself. Show us some cleavage. Show us your curves. And she doesn't know. Oh, how superficial. How can you ask that? Well, we need that for us to be able to be aroused by you and even want to spend fucking a second with you, with your, with somebody as boring as you. We need to at least be aroused. We can't get it up. We can't get it up, and we can't stick it in unless we feel something. For a man, sexual arousal is necessary for orgasm and thus insemination. For a man, his engagement with the woman does not need to continue after insemination, while a woman's association with the male must continue after insemination. This is actually important here. For a man, his engagement with the woman does not need to continue after insemination, while a woman's association with the male must continue after insemination. Her association with the man actually starts after insemination. That's when everything starts for her. You can say that for a woman, the relationship actually starts after insemination, when the man is essentially done and often wants to move on to the next female. Look at that honey on the other corner. Oh my God, she's so hot. All right, there's a new project brewing. It's normal. That's how we were built. A man's sexual life and sexual needs are not very different from watching porn, where he may click through various videos depicting a large variety of women, yet he is willing and is able to sustain a long-term relationship with all of them, with virtually all of them, but preferably not exclusively with just one of them. But preferably and not exclusively with them. So basically, men are very capable of parallel. This is my term here, parallel relationship, as opposed to serial relationships. Women cannot do parallel relationships. They can try. There are certain exceptions under certain conditions, mainly hypergamy, of course, that a woman will go that route to have parallel relationships, but it's a very unnatural state for a woman to do so. So what a woman does is they absolutely cut off every relationship and start a new one. And then fuck for a week or weeks or months or years, and then bang, cut it off. And usually she has absolutely no associations with her previous relationship, with her partner from the previous relationship. And that is very strange for a man, because we never cut anybody off. I mean, why would we? Doesn't even make sense. We only cut them off if we really have to. I was explaining about parallel and serial relationships, and so the natural state for any man to be in is to be in parallel relationships, not in a monogamous, long-term, closed relationship. And let's see where I'd leave off. Anyway, I was explaining that to a male is actually the more profoundly romantic of the two. Romantic fantasy is required as a necessity for him to desire to inseminate instantly, subjectively, and often blindly virtually any female that comes along, right? For a man, sexual arousal is necessary for orgasm and thus insemination. For a man, his engagement with the woman does not need to continue after insemination, while a woman's association with the male must continue after insemination. You can say that for a woman, the relationship actually starts after insemination, when the man is essentially done and often wants to move on to the next female. A man's sexual life and sexual needs are not very different from watching porn, where he may click through various videos depicting a large variety of women, yet he is still and is able to sustain a long-term relationship with all of them, but preferably not exclusively with each one of them, or one of them. The female, in order to ensure her own survival, cannot be irrational or impractical in her choice of sexual partner, and cannot and does not rely on something as intangible and abstract as lust or love. Sexual arousal plays a small part in a woman's association with a man. Love is of no purpose for the female, and thus she rarely is not immune to this vulnerability, which would be completely self-defeating to her in many ways. Uh, Love will only cause her problems. It will not allow her to choose the proper mate, and it would not ensure the flourishment of her offspring. Emotional detachment in her is her assurance of a prudent choice in the male partner. Emotional detachment is her assurance of a prudent choice in the male partner. There is also her avoidance of becoming dismissible to males. Okay? She cannot become dismissible to males through acquiring the unflattering image of sexual impropriety. A careful woman cannot afford to choose badly and to have numerous failed relationships, as this would display her with an impure appearance, thus decreasing her reproductive value and decreasing her choices in acquiring her desired man-slave. A woman cannot go on trial periods and try this guy and try that guy and sleep with this guy and say, okay, well, he's not the one and let's try that one. If they do, what are they? They're fucking whores, okay? And we don't want them. They're fucking dirty, okay? And they know this. So they cannot make mistakes. That's why when a woman starts off after she reaches sexual maturity, she often imagines that her very first boyfriend will be her husband for life. And that's what we call sexual purity, and it's highly desirable for a male, of course. So a woman cannot go around and afford to be promiscuous and to fuck around, to try different males. So she has to be emotionally detached. She has to be emotionally detached, and she has to approach every dating, mating situation in terms of looking at it as a business deal, as a simple exchange of goods. While that is not how a man looks at it, right? We are much more deeply emotionally involved. We have to be, because we have to very quickly inseminate that female, and we need to be aroused to do that. We need to feel something for her. We need to have this strong attraction for her. A female does not need to have any attraction. A female just simply looks at what this guy can offer, what this guy is willing to offer, how this guy can be molded, how this guy can be controlled, how this guy can be manipulated, lied to, deceived to basically take his shit, rip him off, scam him. All right? And love should not enter into this, because it would ruin everything for the female, right? Female doesn't need it. All she does is she spreads her legs and her job's done, and the guy is caught, right? The guy's caught in the web. And then, of course, if she gets pregnant, kids come along, he is really fucking trapped. And he's going to end up on Skid Row when she's done with him, right? A woman thus proceeds immediately upon evaluating the male. Okay, as soon as she sets eyes on you, you set eyes on her, and you utter your pickup line, she's going to evaluate you immediately in terms of his potential for malleability. Okay, this happens instantly upon first impressions. she has a checklist of preferences. And you can see this checklist. They're not even ashamed. They don't even realize what they're doing. If you go on any dating site, they're gonna have a whole bunch of fucking checklists there that they want from the guy, right? Love. They state love to make it look good, but really love is not involved in this. All right. I'm sure that men don't have a checklist. You just gotta look hot. You gotta look healthy. Got to be sexy, and you got to do a little bit more than just spread your legs, right? We don't want to extract anything from a female, but it's not the same the other way around. They come with a checklist. It's in here, and nothing in here, but it's all in here for the female. This happens. Okay, where was I? She has she has a checklist of preferences for the male. This is applied to every male, who are all rated on a grading scale. Physical appearance will only get you in the door, but not further than that. That's very true. In fact, if you're good looking, she may just absolutely walk away because if you're good looking, you're going to be wanted by other females. She will not have the security that she desires. She will not have the control over you that she desires. If you're wanted by various other females or any other female that looks at you, she's going to have limited powers over you. So she's going to walk. You could be a great looking guy and you're not getting any dates because they're walking. If you're a very dominant male, she's going to walk again. If you're a very good looking dominant male, she's going to walk because she knows she's not going to be able to control you. You're going to be too strong to be controlled. So it's really not worth her time. She's on a business deal. She's making an investment here, and she has no time to waste. She has no time to fuck around. And if she's gonna fuck for a reason, right? More important is what you're offering and what you are willing to do for her. To what extent will you sacrifice yourself for the realization of her biological goals and her emotional needs for control? And to what extent will you be content in receiving far less than commensurate reward? It's a long sentence. More important is what you're offering and what you are willing to do for her. Which means, to what extent will you sacrifice yourself as a male? You will notice that when talking to women or on dating sites or whatever, women are not willing to sacrifice anything, not even their time. They won't do anything out of the ordinary for any man. They want the man to do everything for them. They will not sacrifice their kids. They will not sacrifice their job. They will not sacrifice their money. They will not sacrifice their emotions. Nothing. But the man has to sacrifice everything for her. And she's looking for that. She's looking for which fucking dumb motherfucker is going to sacrifice himself for her. Sacrifice yourself for the realization of her biological goals and her emotional needs. So what are her biological goals? She wants to build a nest. She wants kids. And it's all for her. And you better want the exact same thing as she does. You better be a woman and want exactly what a woman wants. And so those are her biological goals. You have to be willing to serve her for her to and help her realize be constructive in helping her realize her biological goals, not your biological goals, her biological goals. And that is perfectly normal for her. She sees absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's what men are put on this earth for, to serve women, and she knows that very, very much, and she lives by it. She was born to know this. It's an instinct, and she will treat you accordingly, of course, right? Her biological goals and her emotional needs, and how good you will make her feel about herself. You should never judge her, never make her accountable. She's not responsible for anything. She should not be expected to do anything, not sacrifice anything. And if you can make her feel good about all these things, then you're in. You're in, absolutely in. You're a good slave. Her emotional needs for control, and then what men don't realize, that what women want, the number one thing they want, is control. And you look around at the various relationships, you look around at maybe your parents are still married, and friends, family, co-workers, and you look at every marriage, and you will see that the woman is in control. And to what extent you will be content in receiving far less than commensurate rewards. So you better basically work for minimum wage, because that's all that you're going to be given. You're going to be given some bad sex once every few weeks or once every few months, if you're lucky. Because she controls that as well. She controls absolutely everything in your life. And to her and to society, unfortunately, very sadly, tragically, that is normal. That is the way it should be. According to the church, according to the government, everything, they all consider it the way it should be. To her, it comes down to fulfilling an exchange. That's all the relationship is to her, is to fulfilling an exchange. Whereas the relationship progresses in her getting the far better end of the deal. So as the relationship progresses, she will get more and demand more, and get more and more and more and more and more. If not, you will be punished, my friend. Punished. Terribly punished. It is very unnatural and unhealthy for a male to be bridled and harnessed in this way, to only serve the female in her biological, instinctual, aspirational, and not to serve himself by actualizing his own identity. Did I write that? I think I didn't write that correctly. To only serve the female in her biological, instinctual aspirations. Yes, I read it wrong. It is very unnatural and unhealthy for the male to be bridled and harnessed, to only serve the female in her biological, instinctual aspirations, and not to serve himself by actualizing his own male identity. And often you will see males who are, former empty shells and skeletons of their former selves after they've been in a long-term relationship. The female that wants one thing, the female wants one thing, and to her it's totally understood and acceptable. Any male accepting anything less is deemed pathological and highly undesirable to the female collective if you don't go along with her demands. the female expects absolute congruity of objectives and anticipated outcomes. So basically, she expects you to want exactly what she wants. And you will see this in marriages if you open your eyes and if you look. Look closely. Look a little bit below the surface and you will see it. That the female absolutely expects you to want exactly what she wants. Not the other way around, of course. These are very narcissistic, selfish creatures. In the cloak of goodness and purity and nurturing and all the rest of it, all the rest of the cliches that we've been taught to believe about female nature, right? The target of the male must be the same thing as she's shooting for. For this, the female must emasculate the male. So in order for the female to get the male to have the exact same objectives and to work for her, for her biological instinctual objectives, she must emasculate the male. And this is systematically done, regularly done, by every minute, every day. And you can even see this in the attitude that society has taken towards males as being these weak, emasculated servants of the much more superior in every way female. Even within commercials, they're pandering to women and they are wanting men to accept their role in life, accept their subjugation, their servility. They must accept it, and even the corporate world is hammering that into your head that you better expect. You better accept what you have become and what women have made you become. And this is why men going their own way is so very powerful and so very important and so very necessary. To fight against this and to put your fist down and say, fuck you, you pieces of shit. Fuck you, bitches. That's why. This is why it's so necessary. MGTOW. First comes emotional, and then it's followed by actual physical emasculation of the male as being disposable. The male is given the message that he is disposable, and the female will dispose of the male at any moment. And you know what? That's a very uncomfortable situation to live under for any male. And within a marriage, even within a common law relationship, and to a lesser extent in any boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, every guy feels that. Every guy feels that. This is the dynamic of every relationship. While it's hilarious that women have been clamoring for equality for decades, while actually demanding not equality, but complete control. The female to ensure her profiteering from the quote-unquote deal, which every relationship is, and to meet her objectives, must be the architect of the relationship and force the behavior of the male according to her own design, not his design. He has no say in the matter. The female must, let's find some terms here. What women do. What women do to men within the relationship. The female must suppress, restrict, restrain, repress, subdue, defeat, overpower, put down, stifle, smother, bottle up, hold back, contain, inhibit, and then eventually crush the male into incompetence and incapacity and ultimately complete submission. In essence, the emasculation of the male. This is how a slave is made, is it not? A slave for life. Until she decides to discard him or to replace him. Her intention is mostly innate and subconscious, but not completely. This behavior on the part of the female is mostly innate and subconscious, but not completely. Through social conditioning, encouragement, and authorization. Social conditioning, encouragement, and authorization. The female feels that she is doing nature's work and is obliged to improve on male nature. She is going to improve on your nature, on male nature, taking over where nature was incomplete. Her unfailing tendency to emasculate the male as she perceives and only knows female nature as being the norm and the ideal, including the values of a man, including the values a man should hold as being identical as her own. Her unfailing tendency is to emasculate the male. She perceives and only knows female nature, right? As being the norm, as being the ideal in her mind. Absolutely, female nature is the absolute ideal in her mind, right? Including the values a man should hold. Values a man should hold should be, as she perceives it, identical to hers. All right? Everything a man believes, the way a man acts, should be identical to how what she believes and the way she acts. Her aim is to put the male in her cage, while only at her own disposal, only serving her alone and her biological aspirations in order that she can realize her gynocentric accomplishments, which are, the main example of her gynocentric accomplishments are her offspring, her kids. The male becomes increasingly dehumanized and thus disrespected, unloved, and neglected. The definition of marriage or any relationship is thus the suppression of male nature. It has to be, for the female to get what she wants, right? It has to be. Because as we discussed, male nature is very, very different, the opposite of female nature in what they want in terms of their sexual strategies and their biological needs. So the female must suppress this. The definition of a marriage or any relationship is the suppression of male nature versus the advocacy and fulfillment of female nature as being of much higher value, considered much higher value. So female nature, if you notice, is never suppressed. It's advocated. It must be fulfilled. The fulfillment of whatever she wants is paramount in society, right? It's not what the male wants, it's what the female wants that has to be attended to. It is very clear that there is nothing in it for the male within the relationship. Everything in a relationship, this is so hilarious, is for the woman. Everything from the very first moment you meet and the restaurant she wants to go to or the show she wants to see, the wedding, it's not for the guy. What guy cares about a wedding, right? The clothes that are worn, the entertainment, the friends that you're going to have within the relationship, it's all determined by the woman, and it's all to pander to the woman. And then the kids are for her. I mean, I don't know. I mean, sure, there's guys out there who say, "Oh, I love my kids" and all this, but you can say that all you want, but we don't care. We don't care. Come on, be truthful. Be truthful. That's not what we're here for. Everything is for her. Nothing is for you. It begs the question as to why are you in a relationship in the first place? Just to get some fucking terrible sex from an unresponsive bitch? It's really not worth the effort, is it? In most cases, okay? In most cases. There are some better situations, but this is basically a model of looking at relationships in a very general way. It's a very accurate model of the dynamics within a relationship and what it's all about. And the design of every relationship is the woman, the female, is the architect of it. Everything to do with a relationship is tuned to a gynocentric note. Everything is for her. Failure for the male to comply to the gynocentric demands and the way of conduct will result in severe punishment of the male by the female, the state, the church, and society at large. This is the inherent inequality. This is where the inequality is. Okay? In marriage or relationships. But not the usual gynocentric or feminist interpretation of imaginary and bogus claims of female oppression. It's grossly the opposite, in fact. A fundamental female inclination of projecting her own negative traits and conduct upon the ones she exploits and abuses. This is a prevalent female trait, and pathology has been recorded as socially acceptable female practice. A fundamental female inclination of projecting her own negative traits and conduct upon the ones she exploits and abuses. Is prevalent female pathology, and it happens everywhere all the time from every woman. And this pathology has been recoded as socially acceptable female practice. Pathology has been recoded as being socially acceptable. What do you think of that? Nothing new, right? No surprise there, right? These deranged female set of rules are the preferred way to manage the male, and against which there are no laws or limitations. Again, these deranged female set of rules are the preferred way to manage males, and against which there are no laws or limitations. It's abuse. It's male suffering. It's abuse leading to male suffering. The so-called civilization of male nature is to turn it into female nature. In conclusion, the incongruency of anticipated results of the male and the female. Anticipated results. That means that if you start any relationship from the very first moment on, both genders are anticipating a certain type of conclusion, a certain type of result that they want to see out of that relationship, resulting from that relationship. And these anticipated results are totally different and quite opposite to each other in terms of males and females. They're basically there for totally different reasons. And the resulting oppression and coercion through the threat of disposability and replaceability of the male is very real and omnipresent. The resulting oppression and coercion through the threat of disposability and replaceability of the male is very real and omnipresent. In fact, every man who is in a relationship is impacted by this female extortion. It's nothing short of extortion. The unspoken message from every female being, you either do what I say, act the way I want you to act, and serve me and me alone until I decide I no longer need you. If you don't do this, I will crush you. That is the message within every relationship. And she has the strongest mafia in the world behind her, in her corner, the state. In fact, it's the ultimate invalidation of a man. We often hear that men think that they need a woman, or it's built into them to feel that they need a woman to be validated. Well, in fact, they will end up with the opposite. They will get the opposite from the woman. The opposite being the invalidation of a man. If he does not quietly accept his slave status and lives for the sole purpose to make a woman happy. So is that your purpose in life, to make a woman happy? It should be. That's what society tells you. That's what every girl, short, tall, skinny, fat, hot, ugly, that's what every woman will tell you. That your sole purpose, and sometimes implicitly, doesn't have to be explicit. Women don't function explicitly. Deception is one of their strongest weapons. But they will tell you that your sole purpose and what defines you as a man is to make a woman happy. Which is, of course, impossible, because the goalpost is always moved and the bar is always raised just to keep you on your toes, right? So, one of the titles of this article may be, "This is a man's fate within a relationship." This is a man's fate within a relationship. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. See you soon.